Our tale begins in the quiet village of Meadow Creek, nestled among rolling hills and babbling brooks. Life moved at a gentle pace here, seasons changing with predictable beauty. In this peaceful place lived Clara, a kind woman with eyes the color of the summer sky and hair like spun sunshine. She owned a small farm, inherited from her parents, where she grew plump pumpkins, juicy tomatoes, and sweet corn. Clara was known for her generous heart. She always had a smile for everyone and a helping hand for those in need. Yet, despite her happy disposition, Clara felt a pang of loneliness. The days on the farm were long, and while she loved her animals and the land, she longed for someone to share it with. The village buzzed with families and couples, but Clara often ate her supper alone on the porch, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. She yearned for companionship, for someone to laugh with, to dream with, and to build a life with under the big, starry sky of Meadow Creek. One blustery evening, as Clara finished tending to her chickens, dark clouds gathered overhead. The wind howled like a hungry wolf, bending the trees double. Rain lashed against the windows of her cozy farmhouse. It was the kind of storm that made you want to curl up by the fire with a good book. Clara did just that, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The storm raged through the night, and when Clara awoke the next morning, the sun was shining brightly. The air was fresh and clean, but the farm was a mess. Branches were scattered everywhere, and one of the barn doors had been blown open. Sighing, Clara went to close it, and that's when she saw him. Curled up in a pile of hay, fast asleep, was a man. He was tall and lanky, with messy brown hair and a kind face, even in slumber. Clara gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. Who was this stranger, and what was he doing in her barn? Clara cautiously approached the sleeping stranger. She gently shook his shoulder. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Excuse me, sir, are you all right?" The man stirred, his eyes fluttering open. He blinked, looking around in confusion. Where am I?" he mumbled, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. "You're in my barn," Clara replied, taking a step back. "I'm Clara, and this is my farm." "Who are you, and how did you get here?" The man's eyes widened. "Oh, dear," he said, his face turning pale. I must have gotten the wrong place. "I'm Thomas," he explained, standing up and brushing hay from his clothes. I'm supposed to be a mail-order husband." Clara's jaw dropped. "A mail-order husband? In Meadow Creek?" "A mail-order husband," she repeated, utterly bewildered. "But, for who?" Thomas sighed. "For a woman named Mildred, I believe. She runs the bakery. I thought I was at her place, but the storm confused me, I suppose." Clara, still reeling from the revelation, studied Thomas. He seemed genuinely lost and a little embarrassed. Despite the unusual circumstances, her kind heart wouldn't allow her to turn him away. "Well, Thomas," she said, a small smile playing on her lips, "it seems you've had quite the adventure. Come inside. I'll make you some breakfast, and we can figure out what to do next." Thomas's face lit up with gratitude. "Oh, thank you, Clara," he said. "I truly appreciate it. I wouldn't want to impose, but I am rather hungry." As they walked towards the farmhouse, Clara couldn't help but feel a mixture of confusion and curiosity. A mail-order husband. It was something she had only read about in books. And now, one was standing right beside her, intended for grumpy old Mildred, of all people. The thought made her giggle. She shook her head, trying to regain her composure. This was going to be an interesting day, to say the least. She just hoped Mildred wouldn't be too angry. Inside the warm, inviting kitchen, Clara busied herself preparing a hearty breakfast of scrambled eggs, crispy bacon, and golden toast. The aroma filled the air, making Thomas's stomach rumble. As they ate, Clara learned more about her unexpected guest. "So, Thomas," she began, pouring him a glass of milk, where did you come from?" Thomas took a bite of bacon, his eyes widening in delight. "The city," he replied. "A very big, noisy city. I worked in an office, staring at numbers all day. It wasn't fulfilling. I always dreamed of living in the countryside, of having a farm, of breathing fresh air." He paused, a wistful look on his face. "I saw an advertisement for mail-order brides, and well, I thought maybe it was a way to start a new life. A bit unconventional, I admit." Clara chuckled. "A bit. But I understand wanting a change. Farming isn't always easy, though." Thomas smiled. "I'm willing to learn. Anything is better than those numbers." He then added, a little sheepishly, "although, I'm afraid I don't know the first thing about baking." After breakfast, Clara and Thomas decided to face the music. They walked into town, the air filled with the sweet scent of freshly baked bread. The bakery, Mildred's Marvelous Morsels, was a small, charming building with flower boxes overflowing with colorful blooms. Clara took a deep breath and pushed open the door, Thomas trailing nervously behind her. The bell above the door jingled, announcing their arrival. Behind the counter stood Mildred, a woman with a stern face, a flour-dusted apron, and a permanent frown etched on her brow. She looked up, her eyes narrowing behind her spectacles. "Clara," she said, her voice gruff. "What brings you here? And who is this?" Clara cleared her throat. "Mildred, this is Thomas. He's the mail-order husband." Mildred's eyes widened in disbelief. "The mail-order husband? But he's supposed to be here. Where have you been?" she snapped, turning her glare towards Thomas. "And why are you covered in hay?" Thomas stammered, I got lost in the storm, and I ended up in Clara's barn. I'm so sorry for the mix-up." Mildred huffed. "Lost? In Meadow Creek? Honestly." Despite Mildred's initial outburst, Thomas was determined to make a good impression. He offered to help her in the bakery, hoping to prove his worth. Mildred, though skeptical, agreed to give him a chance. "All right," she said, handing him a rolling pin. "Let's see if you can roll out some dough. But don't expect any special treatment just because you're supposed to be my husband." Thomas eagerly took the rolling pin and approached the mound of dough. He started rolling, but he was clumsy and awkward. The dough stretched unevenly, tearing in places. Flour flew everywhere, coating him from head to toe. Mildred watched, her frown deepening. "Goodness gracious," she exclaimed. "You're making a bigger mess than my cat. Honestly, I've never seen anyone so hopeless with dough. Baking is an art, young man, and you clearly have no talent for it." Thomas sighed, defeated. He looked at the flour-covered mess and then at Mildred's disapproving face. He knew he was failing miserably. Maybe a life in the countryside wasn't for him after all. Or maybe, he just wasn't meant to be a baker's husband. Feeling disheartened, Thomas returned to Clara's farm. He helped her with the chores, mending fences and feeding the animals. To his surprise, he found he enjoyed it. He wasn't very good at it at first, accidentally letting the chickens out and nearly tripping over a bale of hay, but Clara was patient and encouraging. "Don't worry, Thomas," she said, laughing as he chased after a runaway hen. "Farming takes time and practice. You'll get the hang of it." As they worked side by side, Clara showed Thomas how to plant seeds, how to tell when the tomatoes were ripe, and how to care for the animals. He listened attentively, his initial disappointment fading with each passing day. He realized that maybe he wasn't meant to be a baker, but perhaps he was meant to be a farmer. And perhaps, he was meant to be more than just a farmer's helper. He found himself drawn to Clara's kindness and her gentle spirit. He enjoyed her laughter, her stories, and the way she made him feel like he belonged. Of course, news of the misplaced mail-order husband spread through Meadow Creek like wildfire. The villagers, always eager for a bit of gossip, whispered and speculated about the situation. They'd gather at the general store, exchanging knowing glances and hushed conversations. "Did you hear about Mildred's mail-order husband?" Mrs. Higgins would say, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "He ended up sleeping in Clara's barn." "Sleeping in her barn?" Mr. Peterson would exclaim, feigning shock. "Well, I never. I wonder what Mildred thinks about that." Some villagers thought it was hilarious, others thought it was scandalous, and a few even thought it was romantic. They'd see Clara and Thomas working together in the fields and exchange knowing smiles. Maybe it was fate, they'd murmur. Maybe they were meant to be together all along. Mildred, for her part, just rolled her eyes at all the gossip. Honestly, she'd grumble, people have nothing better to do than talk about other people's business. But secretly, even she was a little amused by the whole situation. As the days turned into weeks, Clara continued to teach Thomas about farming. She showed him how to prune the apple trees, how to harvest the honey from the beehives, and how to predict the weather by watching the clouds. Thomas was a quick learner, eager to absorb all of Clara's knowledge. In turn, Thomas shared stories of his life in the city. He told Clara about the tall buildings, the bustling streets, and the bright lights. He described museums filled with amazing art, theaters where actors performed, and restaurants that served food from all over the world. Clara listened, captivated by his tales. She had never left Meadow Creek, and Thomas's stories opened her eyes to a world beyond her farm. He taught her about things she had only dreamed of, expanding her horizons and sparking her imagination. They both learned from each other, their worlds growing bigger and brighter with each passing day. One afternoon, Thomas found Mildred sitting on a bench outside her bakery, looking thoughtful. He approached her cautiously. "Mildred," he said, "may I sit with you?" Mildred looked up, surprised. "Thomas," she replied. "What do you want?" Thomas sat down beside her. "I just wanted to apologize again for the mix-up. I know I'm not the husband you were expecting." Mildred sighed. "That's the truth," she said. "You're hopeless in the bakery. I swear, you'd probably burn water if I asked you to boil it." Thomas chuckled. "Probably," he admitted. Mildred paused, then continued, "But you know what? I've been thinking. Maybe I don't need a husband at all. Running the bakery keeps me busy, and I actually enjoy my peace and quiet. I'm not sure I'd want someone messing things up." She looked at Thomas with a faint smile. "Besides, I hear you're quite the farmer now. Clara seems happy to have you around." The annual Meadow Creek Village Fair was just around the corner, and everyone was busy preparing. Clara decided to enter her vegetables in the competition, and she enlisted Thomas's help. Together, they carefully selected the plumpest pumpkins, the reddest tomatoes, and the greenest beans. They arranged them artfully in a display, adding colorful flowers and decorative gourds. Clara and Thomas worked tirelessly, laughing and teasing each other as they put the finishing touches on their exhibit. Thomas, remembering his city days, had an idea. He suggested adding small signs with funny names for each vegetable. "The pumpkin," he'd say, pointing to a particularly round pumpkin. Or, "tomato, ketchup later." Clara loved his ideas, and together they created a display that was both beautiful and humorous. They hoped their hard work would impress the judges, but more importantly, they enjoyed the time they spent together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The fair was more than just a competition, it was a celebration of their friendship and their growing affection for each other. The day of the fair dawned bright and sunny. The village was buzzing with excitement. Children ran around, their faces painted with colorful designs. Farmers showed off their prize-winning animals, and vendors sold everything from homemade pies to hand-knitted scarves. Thomas, remembering the games he used to play in the city parks, had another idea. He built a simple ring toss game using old bottles and rope rings. He called it, "Test Your Toss," and offered small prizes to the winners. The game was an instant hit, especially with the children. They lined up eagerly, tossing the rings and cheering when they landed successfully. Thomas laughed and joked with them, his city skills proving surprisingly useful in the country. Even Mildred stopped by to try her luck, managing to win a small bag of candy. Clara watched Thomas, her heart swelling with affection. He had brought a bit of city fun to their small village, and everyone was loving it. He fit in perfectly. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, the fair organizers announced the winners of the vegetable competition. Clara and Thomas held their breath, their hearts pounding in anticipation. And the winner is Clara's farm, the announcer declared, his voice booming through the crowd. Clara and Thomas gasped, their faces lighting up with joy. They had won. All their hard work had paid off. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with happiness and something more, something that had been growing between them for weeks. In that moment, surrounded by the cheering crowd and the twinkling lights of the fair, they realized they were in love. It wasn't just friendship or gratitude, it was a deep, genuine love that had blossomed from the most unexpected of circumstances. They had found each other in the most unusual way, and now, they couldn't imagine their lives without each other. The misplaced mail-order husband had led them both to exactly where they were meant to be. The next day, Clara and Thomas went to see Mildred again. They wanted to tell her about their feelings and to thank her for her understanding. They found her behind the counter, humming softly as she iced a batch of cupcakes. "Mildred," Clara began, a little nervously, "we have something to tell you." Mildred looked up, a knowing smile on her face. "Let me guess," she said. "You two are in love." Clara and Thomas exchanged surprised glances. "How did you know?" Clara asked. Mildred chuckled. "It was obvious to everyone but you two. You're like two peas in a pod. Besides," she added, winking, "I'm a baker. I can smell romance in the air. So, what are you going to do?" Thomas took Clara's hand. "We want to get married," he said. Mildred beamed. "Well, that's wonderful. I couldn't be happier for you both. And don't worry about me. I'm perfectly content with my baking and my peace and quiet. Besides," she added with a mischievous grin, "I make a much better wedding cake than I would a wife." The wedding was a grand affair, a true celebration of love and community. The entire village of Meadow Creek pitched in to make it special. The women sewed beautiful dresses for Clara and her bridesmaids, while the men decorated the town square with flowers and ribbons. Mildred, of course, baked the most magnificent wedding cake anyone had ever seen, a towering masterpiece of sugar and frosting. The ceremony was held under the shade of a giant oak tree, its branches adorned with twinkling lights. Clara looked radiant in her white dress, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Thomas stood beside her, his heart overflowing with love. As they exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other forever, a sense of joy and warmth filled the air. Even the gossipy villagers were touched by the genuine love between Clara and Thomas. They knew that this was a love story for the ages, a testament to the power of kindness, acceptance, and a little bit of luck. After the wedding, Thomas became an integral part of Meadow Creek. He used his city skills to help the village in unexpected ways. He organized a community cleanup day, getting everyone involved in making the town look its best. He started a small library in the old schoolhouse, filling it with books he had collected from his city friends. He even taught the children how to play chess, sparking their curiosity and expanding their minds. He also continued to work on the farm with Clara, learning more and more about the land and the animals. He wasn't just a city boy anymore, he was a farmer, a husband, and a valued member of the community. He had found his place in the world, a place where he could use his talents and his heart to make a difference. He proved that it's never too late to start over and that even the most unlikely of people can find happiness and fulfillment in the most unexpected of places. Clara and Thomas lived a long and happy life on the farm, their love deepening with each passing year. They faced challenges together, supporting each other through thick and thin. They celebrated triumphs, sharing laughter and joy with their friends and neighbors. Their farm became a symbol of love and acceptance, a place where everyone was welcome. They hosted picnics and gatherings, sharing their bounty with the community. They taught the children about the importance of hard work, kindness, and following your dreams. As they grew older, they would often sit on their porch, watching the sunset and reminiscing about the day Thomas arrived in Clara's barn. They would laugh and marvel at the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. They knew that their love story was a unique and special one, a testament to the power of destiny and the beauty of unexpected beginnings. Their love story became a local legend, whispered from generation to generation in the village of Meadow Creek. And so, the story of Clara and Thomas serves as a reminder that life is full of surprises. Sometimes, the things we least expect turn out to be the greatest blessings. It teaches us to be open to new experiences, to embrace the unexpected, and to never give up on the hope of finding love and happiness. It also reminds us that kindness and acceptance can change lives. Clara's generosity towards a stranger led to a beautiful love story and a stronger community. It shows us that even grumpy people like Mildred can have a change of heart and that everyone deserves a second chance. Most importantly, the story of Clara and Thomas teaches us that love can be found in the most unlikely of places. It doesn't matter where you come from or what your background is. What matters is the connection you share with another person, the way you make each other feel, and the dreams you build together. For in the end, love is the greatest adventure of all. And that, my friends, is the story of how Clara, the lonely farmer, found love in the most unexpected of places. It all began with a storm, a misplaced mail-order husband, and a kind heart. It proves that sometimes, the greatest surprises lead to the greatest happiness. So, be open to the unexpected, embrace the detours in life, and never underestimate the power of a little bit of kindness. For you never know when a stranger sleeping in your barn might just be the key to unlocking your own happily ever after. Perhaps, like Clara, you'll find that the person you were meant to spend your life with was right under your nose all along, just waiting for the perfect storm to bring them into your life. And maybe, just maybe, what shocked the village, will bring joy to your heart as well. Remember to always keep your heart open, because love can blossom even in the most unlikely of circumstances.